Hey Isabella, alright, so here is your past life spread. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at where you were, what you did with the majority of your time, an important day with the relationships and feelings involved, another important day, relationships and feelings, the death, and lesson learned. And we'll get hints of time throughout, okay? So all I'm going to do is relay to you the imagery and impressions that are already coming through. And your job is going to be to try to make connections wherever you can based off what comes through here and then your current life. And I'll try to help however I can, okay? So just keep in mind there are a couple of ways to make connections, direct and opposite. Direct connections is when you can directly connect or resonate with what comes through here. An opposite connection is when you connect in a way where it's like if someone dies of smoking in another life, sometimes or often they'll come back and they'll be allergic to smoke, or they can't stand the smell of smoke, can't be around it, that kind of connection, okay? So just keep your mind and eyes and ears open for that. You might want to grab a notebook and pen, and also keep in mind that it's your job to make connections where you can, right? But don't force it. So if you don't connect with something, just tuck it in the back of your mind for a later time, because often things come up in the weeks, months, year later kind of thing that you might go, that's what she was talking about. All right, so let's go ahead and start. All right, so first of all, what I'd like to say is coming through is the idea that this aspect we're looking at, it feels like a very strong and masculine female who is going to be doing, it feels like, a job that would be otherwise a male-oriented profession or job, but it feels like we're looking at someone who grew up in a family or with a parent or whoever is her role model, who did this job, so she kind of took apprenticeship under him and just has been doing this, it feels like, for her whole life. So how you might connect with that just automatically would be a direct connection. Could be if you in your current life you find that you're aware of your masculine energy, that you're tapped into your masculine energy, that it could be like where you grew up a tomboy, and the opposite connection kind of thing would be if in this current life you are very girly, very in tune with the feminine energy, not really tapped into the masculine, or it can be a balance kind of thing. So it's like, where did you take that kind of thing? Like this concept of masculine versus feminine energy, how does that play out in your life now? So seeing it masculine here, and when I say masculine, I mean, it's almost like even the body build based on the profession we're looking at, which we'll get into in a second. Based on that, even is there, it's muscular tone because of what's needed for this job. This is someone that doesn't do makeup, doesn't do, just like very practical, dresses very practical for the job kind of thing. So the opposite connection would be your soul wanting to experience something different, like enjoying dressing up, enjoying beautifying yourself, enjoying, again, the more feminine aspects of being female, if that makes sense. Or it doesn't really matter if you're male or female, just the feminine aspects of what can come with that. So just however that plays into your life. So the other thing you can connect with already would be the idea of having a role model that you based your ideal lifestyle off of. This could be someone in your life, like you grew up with someone, or when you were young you had a family member or a friend, you knew someone that did something that you thought was just awesome, that you connected with, and you're like, I want to do that, I want to be like that, and use them as kind of like a template for what to do for yourself in order to prepare, in order to have that kind of lifestyle or profession, or it doesn't even have to be profession, it just is here. So it could be that a lifestyle, a profession, or even a look, or whatever it might be. When you were younger, you may have had a role model. That would be a direct connection. An opposite connection would be if you came back into this life and you might have had zero role models, you don't really look up to other people, you make your own path, you figure things out on your own. It can go as far as if you have ever or do feel lost, in the sense of you're just like, where can I look to in order to like kind of showcase what I'm kind of looking for? Like almost like you don't know what you want, but you know you don't want what you're doing now, that kind of thing. So if that's the case, by the way, this would be a message of being open to the idea of finding someone that is living the life you want to live, or is practicing something you want to become a master at or good at, or is, you know, working a job that you find incredibly interesting. Basically, it's a message of allowing yourself to be influenced by the right influencer, if that makes sense, and kind of like using that as a means of the next stepping stone in your path. Like, don't be ashamed or afraid, or don't think it's weird or whatever, to find someone that you might look up to in some way and use them as like a map in a direction to go to for yourself. Like, that's how we're all connected. We're all here to help each other. So if someone comes across your radar that you admire, it's for a reason. It's not just to sit there and admire them. It's also to sit there and be like, huh, I can admire myself the same way I'm admiring other people if I take steps in the direction that I see that they've become, if that makes sense. And it's not copying someone. This isn't about copying. This is about using what comes across your radar as a good influence for you to move in a certain direction. If you ever feel in limbo or stuck or don't know what to do, just keep your eyes open, because the universe sends you signs in all kinds of ways. So you're looking to feel inspired, motivated by someone. It could be something too, but this is someone, and that can help you move forward in a direction. So use what you got, kind of thing, right? All right, so, and if you don't connect, that's fine, just tuck in the back of your mind. But let's go ahead and like get into the cards. Actually, this is where we're going. This is Africa, okay? So this Africa we're looking at, what it felt like even when I was shuffling, that we are going somewhere where there is animal preservation. And this feels like this aspect of you feels like they work with preserving the wildlife and preserving the native, it's more animals than plants or land or terrain. I feel like this is a focus on animals. So we're looking at like a wildlife preservation. And at first it felt like this one place, but it feels like it eventually expands, where you travel between preservations because of your mastery of knowledge, but also your innate natural ability to work with animals. Okay? So how you might connect with this right now would be if you, for example, have ever been pulled to go to Africa, or have been pulled to Africa just when you see depictions about it, read about it, hear about it, that kind of thing. And we're looking at an Africa where it is like the land, not so much the cities. So basically it's almost like, one, have you ever been drawn to Africa? If not, that's fine. What you want to do then is look at photographs or depiction, I say photos, go Google some photos of Africa wildlife preservations and see how you feel about that. It could be that you already know that you like African animals, like the safari stuff. So if you've ever been drawn to safari type of aesthetic, the opposite connection would be if you absolutely you're not interested in that at all. But the direct connection would be if you are interested, if it's ever appealed to you, like even the kind of thing where if you were to go to Disney and you were going to go to Animal Kingdom, they have like a safari section. So I mean, you know, I don't know if you've been there, but it's like if that kind of thing, if you travel, you find like the African animal safari style. Even like there's a restaurant called like Rainforest Cafe, like that kind of thing, even though I know it's not very African theme, but they have like stuff about like that kind of goes with it. So it's that kind of thing you want to look for when you make connections, these little things you don't think about, but it's like, oh yeah, I am drawn to that part of the animal kingdom, like that kind of thing. Let's see, another thing, it's the African safari. It's like, even like if you've ever wanted to go on a safari, or it's what's standing out is the uniform. It's that like khaki kind of color, like that. It's very practical kind of uniform khaki kind of thing, but that aesthetic might be very appealing to you. Maybe you don't wear it, but when you see it, how do you feel? Like that kind of thing. So keep making connections with that. Let's see, there's something, the land, nature, this kind of land. So we're looking at like safari preservation land. So this is a lot of trees and a lot of like rolling, not prairies, but what is that? So, you know, like the oasis of land, like where it's like kind of like rolling, flattish kind of lands. like the Lion King. By the way, if you're one of your favorite Disney movies, or I want to say your favorite Disney movie, if it's Lion King, if that had a big influence on you when you were younger or today or whatever, that could be a connection as well. And we're looking at animals and specifically, like, what's your favorite animal? Is it like a lion, an elephant, a giraffe, a zebra, like those animals that are out there kind of deal, versus like aquatic animals. People have different favorite animals. So like, how do the African animals or safari animals or whatever, how do you connect with those? So just keep making connections where you can with this, with that kind of stuff. And let's see. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and go to what you did with the majority of your time. And this here is a hunter provider card. Now what is pulling me is the hunter card. So what this feels like is trying to explain, because we already said wildlife preservation, which, by the way, if you connect with wildlife preservation, have you ever done the thing or thought about doing that thing where you, for like $50, you can send in and help adopt / save a wild tiger, and then you get like a stuffed animal and a certificate in the mail, like as a gift, or that kind of thing. If you've ever been interested in that sort of thing. Now the hunter card. So what I'm getting here is that a big part of your job is fending off what do they call it? It starts with a P, not predators, but like the poachers, the people that like go to hunt the animals, the elephants for their tusks. Oh, by the way, if you get triggered when you hear about when people / poachers / hunters are killing these wild animals, like as prizes, as trophies, like the rhinos or whatever, it's like the last rhino, and you get, like that kind of thing. If you get triggered by that, that's a connection as well. Even though I know a lot of people get triggered by that, but like that would be a connection to this. So a big part of your job is fending off the poachers, the hunters, even like checking people who are hunting for their permits and like to make sure they're doing it correctly. So how do you feel, or how do you connect when it comes to hunting, hunters? Does that turn you off? Is that something you don't see the purpose in it? Like, yeah, a long time ago we needed, hunters needed to hunt for pelts and food and useful practical necessity, but now that's not really necessary, that's not needed. So how do you feel about it today? And if you are fine with it, that's totally cool too. It's just that if you are triggered by it, that would be a connection here, or turned off by, or whatever. So this can also mean, because you were checking, like because you were regulating and monitoring, you might be someone that does regulate and monitor. And here's the thing, that can come in various ways. That can even come in the way where if you're in a partnership with someone, you might be someone that likes to check their texts or check their, where people might be like, that's sneaky. You're like, no, I'm just monitoring, like that kind of thing. It could be that you are in a position where you are monitoring in the sense of being a caretaker. Like you might have to monitor an older person in your life, or monitor a child with disabilities, or monitor, you know what I'm talking about? So monitoring, where does that come into your life? How do you connect? Now, the opposite connection to that would be if you're just like, I don't care, I'm not into, like this whole like rule following, you don't want to follow the rules, fine, do your own thing, you see? So how do you connect with the idea of regulation and monitoring? Or basically like kind of like rule following, but for the purpose of not just to follow the rules, but the purpose of, because it's helping the whole, like here it's preserving wildlife, it's preserving lives, so how does that fit in for you? So keep making connections where you can here. We're going to go to the first important day. Sorry, cracking knuckles. So the first important day here, we have the Enlightenment card, and this card comes up when we're looking at like an aha moment, like just a moment of like almost like a dose of direction, like, oh, this makes sense, oh, this is where I want to go, this is that kind of thing, which by the way could be coming up just as it is right now. If you connect, if you're in a place in your life right now where you're like waiting for the motivation, looking for what to do next, what's the next move, which I feel like circles back to what we were talking about looking for a role model kind of thing. But let's go to this day. So Enlightenment Day. Now the relationship involved is a child, and the feeling here is happy. So what we're actually witnessing here is you witnessing a birth of an animal. And I want to say it might even be where it feels like almost like you rescued the animal, you and your crew rescued this animal, and it turned out to be like a pregnant mother. and you're watching the birth of it, and it feels like it's a rarity to see this birth because that animal in the wild goes into hiding when she gives birth. It's almost like the feeling that no one has captured it on footage or no one has seen it live, the birth of this particular animal. I'm trying to see what it might be. So this feels like we're looking at an animal that kind of resembles like a rhino, but it's not a rhino, and it feels like there's something like that. There's something where maybe it's like spends time in water a lot or around water a lot. I'm just trying to give you, in case you can find it, that'd be really cool. It's not a rhino. It just is big and massive. It's almost like, okay, you know what's coming to mind are those animals, which I don't even know if they are in Africa, quite frankly, but this might be similar to them. I think they're called capoeiras or capoeiras or something like that, where they're like a huge rodent. They're massive, like massive. But they're like, I think they're mostly gentle. And they're just so interesting looking. They're kind of cute, but kind of like intimidating too. If you look it up, I hope that's the right word. The capoeira. Anyway, look it up and see if you connect with that animal at all. If it intrigues you, if you're drawn to it, I don't know. It's just coming up, and that's what I feel like we're looking here. Or actually, if you look it up and see what the African safari-ish kind of equivalent is, unless they come from Africa, but I don't know if they do. I don't know. So we're witnessing a birth, and there's something that hits you, like a new realization of where you want to focus your studies or your job or your work, and I feel like it's focusing on either preserving this rare creature or having to do with focusing on, I want to say protecting, this is what it feels like. It feels like the focus is on protecting how do I say it? Like mothers giving birth, like pregnant safari, like the animals. I'm saying safari animals, but they're not. They're African animals. Like, but it's about protecting the animals. Sorry, motorcycle in the background. Ugh, always fun. Anyway, your focus here is on protecting pregnant animals, but it's almost like protecting them on a new degree, a new level. Almost like I want to say that you form a unit of people whose sole job is to go out and locate pregnant, either rare species, like the ones that are endangered, or just in general. It could be in general, and then there's even a second focus where it's about protecting the endangered species by keeping track of, again, monitoring pregnant animals. And I want to say it's not like it hasn't been done before or wasn't like in the works, but it hasn't been a focal point. So I feel like you get people on board to like start an official section of the preservation, wildlife, whatever, particularly for this, like preserving or like monitoring pregnant animals that are like endangered in particular, or something. Like you headed that up. So how this might connect with your current life could be, one, you might have a soft spot for pregnant people, pregnant women or whatever, pregnant animals. Soft spot in the sense of, I want to say, it would feel protective. So if you are protective over women, and then it would be even particularly over women who are pregnant, or with very young children. Like if you notice yourself walking along and there's a pregnant woman or a woman with an infant, you might find yourself looking around to see if there are any elements of danger or anyone, almost like I want to say, you know, the issue of women breastfeeding in public and how there are people that harass them. If that triggers you, or if you notice someone, let's say breastfeeding, and you look around to make sure no one is giving them dirty looks or harassing them, or you'll sit with them, that kind of thing, that would be a direct connection to this. This can also be if you connect with endangered species. How does it make you feel when you read about endangered species, or if they're being, if you read about them being hunted, or even like you see movies, like there's this movie that came out called like XOXO, about like this endangered prized like pig-like animal, and it's very like, it's interesting and serious, but like those kinds of movies that have to do particularly with that. Are you drawn to them? Do they intrigue you? Do they trigger you? Can you not even watch them because they trigger you so much? That kind of thing we're looking at. As well as you may be very triggered when you hear about a pregnant woman in distress, which I guess if you have a heart, you're going to be bothered by that. But this would be another level of emotional triggering, if that makes sense. So again, we're looking at a connection that you have when it comes to your protectiveness and pregnant creatures, essentially. But this was a day where you're like, this took you on an, okay. So this took you down a whole, like, new path in life. Not new path, but like a more focused path. Which, by the way, in your current life, if you have a path and you're just like, I want a deeper focus, I want something that is mine, something that is uniquely mine, this would be coming up for you as a message to pay attention to the things that trigger you into taking action. And oftentimes when people get triggered, they want to stay away from it because it makes them feel uneasy or uncomfortable or icky or volatile, or, it brings up feelings that are uncomfortable, so people go away from it, when you can actually use that as a GPS system. Like, you can use it as like okay, I'm feeling really upset, or there's a lot of uprest or whatever it's called, like I'm feeling kind of like icky about this. Maybe I can be part of a solution. And then you go in the direction of it, which to a lot of people is counterintuitive, because as humans, we are here to survive, so we move away from icky feelings. And that's why a lot of people don't approach their traumas, and they don't approach their emotions, and they don't know how to handle a lot of things and heal, because they want to move away from feeling icky. But in order to heal, you have to kind of face the icky. Most often you do. So if you're looking for a path, a more focused path that is particularly uniquely yours, pay attention to when you are triggered into uncomfortable feelings, and instead of running from them, you might just want to hang there and observe them and see what they could possibly mean as far as finding a solution and moving in that direction. And that might open up new doors, and it kind of feels like a domino effect, where if you just take a step, it's going to unravel more and more steps for you, which might be highly intriguing. So don't cringe away from icky feelings, because when you go to discover them, you might discover instead that they are stepping stones to a pathway towards happiness, essentially. So keep that in mind, and keep making connections where you can when it comes to that, because the happy card here is like, you found yourself. You found your calling. Like, you always knew you'd be in preservation. That's the general step. But then you found your calling. It's like when you go into the medical field. Okay, I want to help people and be a doctor, but then you find that I really like working with feet or eyeballs, or you know what I mean? You just get more and more specific. So if you are looking to narrow down your focus, this would be a message for you. Now here's the thing. If you don't connect with the idea of right now in your life looking for a narrowed focus, you want to tuck this in the back of your mind, because it's going to come up and you're going to want a formula for it, and that's the formula. So just keep that in mind. Keep making connections. We're going to the next important day. This actually, really quick, this could also mean that you might have an interest in, even if you don't know it yet, like look into being a doula. What's it called when they do midwife? Midwife, or maybe you already are. Maybe you're a doctor and you deliver babies. Who knows? But look and see how you feel about being part of the process of delivering children into the world. It could be like medical, but it can also be like a doula is more about emotional support for the mother. That kind of thing. Even though they do know all the steps of delivering, a midwife is a more holistic approach to delivery and pregnancy and stuff like that. So just that might be an interest of yours, and that also might be coming up. In case that's not an interest, it's showing you that what you are interested in, there may be things you don't even know about it that are offshoots of it that might be even more highly intriguing to you, in the sense of getting you motivated and inspired to taking steps in that direction. So like, do some research, do some digging, be open to what might come across your radar about the things you already love. All right, so next important day. So this is the birth card. So the birth card is obviously, either someone's given birth or you're giving birth or you're witnessing a birth. We're already witnessing a birth up here too, which is interesting. So this can actually, all this birth stuff, and also the fact that we're working with animals and stuff like that, this is all very like human like experience stuff, that it's like birthing is also birthing a new chapter. Are you stepping into a new chapter in your life? Now, this does not have to mean moving somewhere new or, even having a child or, like huge steps. This can literally mean the birth of a new thought process or pattern in your life. The birth of a new sense of freedom in your life. The birth of a new emotional range in your life. The birth of a new perspective in your life. So pay attention to your thoughts and emotions too. Those are just as important, or even more important, than new chapter in the sense of starting a business, moving houses, like, you know what I mean? So just pay attention to all the ways that there can be the birthing of a new era in your life, whether it's in your being or around you. So birth, this is the Friends card, and this is the Horror card, okay? What this feels like is you are witnessing close friends of yours, not animals, they're close friends too, but these are close human friends. I feel like friends of the family, almost, and it feels like your friends with your family, or you are friends with the man, and the man is married to someone, so naturally you're friends with both of them. That's just how it works. And I don't know why that specifically is coming through, but that's how it is. It could be that you have something similar in your life, I don't know, going on right now, where you're friends with a guy and he got married and now you're friends, you have to be friends with both of them, but maybe there's an issue with you and the female just because some women are weird about their guys having friends who are women or whatever. If that's in your life, that could be coming up for that reason, and if not, that's fine, just, whatever. But this feels like they give birth to a child who has a deformity. It almost feels like it would be like Down syndrome, or it would be the thing with the lip, the cleft palate with, that. So we're looking at a deformity that is obvious in the physicality on the face. And it feels like there's something about the child that basically, this is not like pleasant to hear, but it feels like the parents are put off. At the very least, it feels like the mother is actually put off more, which is kind of strange, but it feels like the parents are put off in such a way that they are considering putting the child up for adoption because they don't want to deal with it. And I feel like you step in and you raise the child. I feel like you take the child under your wing and you raise the child, not only so the child will have access to the birth parents, but so the child, you can give the child a good life and you can love the child, and that deformity doesn't bother you at all. So it may be in your current life that you have a soft spot for deformed children, particularly maybe Down syndrome or cleft palate. Maybe this is even a mixture of both. Who knows if that's possible? I don't know the science. But if you do have a soft spot, like almost like it would be the kind of thing where if you wanted children, and let's say you wanted to adopt, you would literally go specifically to find a child that has a deformity so you can give them a good life. That's the kind of connection we're looking for here. So that's what I mean when I say you have a soft spot. It would be a deep soft spot for these kinds of kids. You might be someone that if you were to pick a charity to donate to, it would be to donate so kids with cleft palates can get the surgery that they need for a higher quality life. This can also be a connection in the way where you might, one, have adopted a kid or children, or two, if you want kids, you have thought about, like heavily thought about the consideration of adopting. Maybe you even prefer adoption. This would definitely speak to you understanding the concept of someone not being blood related can still be as much or more of family than someone who is blood related. That concept might play into your life in this lifetime. This can also be you coming back into your current life now where you actually give birth to a child because you didn't hear. You did not give natural birth to a child. This was your only child and you adopted this child. So it could be your soul wants to experience the birthing process in this current life. It could also be that with all this birth we're seeing here and all this child raising and stuff, that you in your current life, you might just want to experience life as a child yourself, and freely and enjoy your life without the burden of children. I'm not saying all children are burdened, but you know, having kids, that's a big responsibility, and it definitely limits your freedom, period. So you might, basically we're looking at how you connect with the idea of having children, of raising children. And even if you don't want kids, that would come from here as well too. Like that would be an opposite connection where I want to experience a life of freedom and doing what I want and not being limited. So I'm not going to have kids. You know, if you have no desire to have kids, that's fine too. So however it might fit into how you feel about having kids, and whether it's birth kids or adoption, like that kind of thing. But we're seeing a lot of, like, you know, obviously, you know, we're going over a lot of things that have to do with children, birth, pregnancy, that kind of thing. So it's like, are you the observer of the child raising, or are you partaking? And in your life, have you ever felt the responsibility to take care of someone else's belongings, we can say? It could be kids, but it could also be someone else's pet, someone else's responsibility, essentially. If you are someone that takes on the responsibility of others in your current life, it's a direct connection, and this would be a message for you to stop it. You can help people without taking on their responsibility, and sometimes, not always, because it wasn't here, but sometimes taking the responsibility of others takes away their lesson. It enables them in a way. It's like an enabler, and you're taking away the lesson that they have to learn from the burden of their own responsibility. So just keep that in mind. Here, this was a soul contract for you to take the child, so that's not the case here. But oftentimes, if you're someone that's like, I'll take care of it, I'll take care of it, if you're like that, this would be a message for you to try to not be, okay? Because that could be hard for people to stop if they're people pleasers, or if they are used to shouldering the responsibility of others. But this would be a message for you to lay off that if you are doing that, all right? Because it would come from here. Let's see. So keep making connections where you can with that. This might also mean that in your current life, you are very selective of the friends that you have, because you might be someone that needs friends who are responsible. And also friends who are not shallow, friends who are like, who wouldn't give up a child because of a deformity. Like that, you might be very selective of the people you allow in your life. Now, if you are not selective of the people you allow in your life, and you find that you are annoyed, irritated, not super thrilled or happy or feel encouraged or loved by the people that you allow access to you, your friends now, or whatever, this would be a message for you to be more aware of the kind of people that you do allow access to, you do allow in your life, and perhaps to start taking steps to cutting some ties that may be toxic, or that might make you feel like this is shallow, this is not real friendship, or these people maybe aren't so good, you know, like these, basically, if there are people in your life that you feel would give up a child because of a deformity, let that be your standard of whether or not you allow them in your life, if that is good enough for you, you know what I mean? So just take that in consideration as it pertains to who you allow around you and who you allow access to you, because who you allow in your energy affects your energy. All right, it's like that saying of like guilty by association. It's kind of like that, you know. But we do learn lessons from these kinds of people as well. So as long as you're learning lessons, I guess, you know. So just see how that connects in your current life. And we are going to go ahead and move to the Death card. But keep making connections where you can here. So the Death card, this is the Murder card. Murder card is not always stabby in the backy kind of murder. Murder card comes with intention. So it could be like, we've gotten people who drink themselves to death. So that's not really, you know, no one's murdering them. They're kind of murdering themselves in a way because there's intention to drink, right? So we're looking at intention behind the act. I feel like this Murder card, there's something about you being out on a run for your job, like not running, but like you're out doing something for your job, like a checking on something. And I wanted to say either there are poachers involved or they are nearby. Like basically you heard of people that you need to go check on, and I feel like you were stopped because you found like an injured or dead animal, and there's something about you being with the animal that's dying. It feels like the animal's dying. This is kind of like a bit of a dark death. It feels like you were killed by poachers because they killed the animal and left it to die out, and you found it in the process of it, and they didn't want you to call them in, and I feel like they killed you. Like it actually feels like it is like a murder, like from behind, like just like they shot you or something. Like it was really quick, like you didn't suffer, but it was quick, and it was unexpected. So this could be in your current life if you, I want to say if you are paranoid and always looking over your shoulder when you're alone, which I know a lot of women do just in general, but if you find yourself paranoid, if you find yourself needing to be able to see everywhere around you, you know, like all the exits and entrances, if there's a distrust you have when you see more, like, this might be simply a distrust in men. And not just like men, but like men who kind of have the energy of like, that they would be hunters, like guys, you know, like bros, jocks, kind of bros, like those like the guys that where you can just tell they disrespect women only because they're women, like that specific kind of guy, that might trigger you, put you off, make you cross the street kind of thing, like get away, because that's the feeling of these guys, like they're kind of ruthless. We could just say, like, even if you hear about poachers or see in movies or whatever, you get triggered. You might get triggered when you see a group of men together when they're not like lighthearted, but like basically this makes me feel like in your current life you can read people, their energy. Like this sensitized you to read people, like specifically if a man or a group of males are putting off an energy of alert, I guess, like almost like you can read the bad intention in people, like you can read the bad intention in a group, if that makes sense. I know that's kind of weird and specific, but if you have that going on in your life and you notice that about yourself, it might even seem very natural to you, like you think everyone does that. That would be an ability that your soul kind of like brought into this life because it wasn't able to fend off from this life. It didn't sense the danger that it should have. So in your current life, you might be someone that senses danger very well, senses red flags. Like you can tell if someone's watching you from like down the street kind of thing, like that kind of thing, like just hypersensitivity to being in danger, if that makes sense. All right. And if not, that's totally fine. This can also be if you have neck problems, because it feels like they kind of shot you right in the back of like the neck kind of thing, just like, or the skull. So if you have headaches, chronic headaches, and you don't know why, it could come from this. And if that's the case, by the way, you can get rid of this kind of thing through meditation, intention, hypnosis, various things that you can do to relieve that, because it's a soul memory. If you don't know why you might have chronic headaches, and that you do. So if you connect in that way. Let's see. Yeah, okay, I think that's pretty much it for here, but keep making connections wherever you can with that scenario. I know it's a bit dark. Yeah, so we're gonna go to the lesson. The lesson card, this is the strategy card, the mind card, the brain card. We see a lot of this with like scientists. So it's interesting because even though they might not consider themselves, I guess, scientists as like an animal preservation kind of thing. I mean, I think maybe they do, because I would, because they're dealing with biology all day long and chemistry and all sorts of things. So we are actually looking at a life where you are a scientist. This is the life sciences, actually. Yeah. So this lesson card is to basically, this card feels like I could have gotten this or my other lesson card, which is the Dream Big card, because I feel like that card is like energetically implanted in this card today, right now, because it feels like you followed your dreams, you followed what pulled and intrigued you, and also the idea of like having that role model that felt like, again, your dad or an uncle or something like that, but you allowed yourself to follow in the footsteps of someone that you admired, and yet also created your own path from it. So I feel also like when I say that, in your current life, if you feel like following someone's footsteps isn't authentic or is copying so it can't be authentic, please understand, there's nothing authentic or like there's nothing that is new anymore. So you have to start somewhere. So allow yourself to follow in someone's footsteps, let's say, if you are excited and it pulls you and it intrigues you and it's interesting and that's what you want to do. Do it, because again, like we were talking about, there will be a domino effect where at some point you will veer off in your own unique direction, like you did here, like starting that group or whatever, you know? So if you find yourself holding yourself back or limiting yourself because you feel like what you want to do is already taken, you know, it could be even like you have like a sibling or a best friend or something that starts something new and they're totally into it, and you realize, oh my god, I'm really into that too, but I don't want to start doing it right after she does because it'll look like I'm copying her. If that's the case, it's happening for a reason. So if that's the case, talk to that person and be like, look, I see what you're doing and it looks so fun and interesting, and like I really want to try it too. Can you show me? You know, I mean, like that kind of thing. Like, we're human and we have connections for a reason, and it could very well be that you were meant to make a friend so that years later that friend would introduce you to a passion that you never would have found had you not made friends with that person. So don't hold yourself back or limit yourself or block yourself because of how something may look, you know, like in that way. Basically this card, when I say that, this card's coming up as with the brain card. Don't overthink, overanalyze, read into that kind of thing too much, because it will hold you back. You're gonna spin scenarios in your head that's gonna hold you back from what potentially might have been a life purpose of yours or a calling. Those are callings when you feel pulled in that way. So it could very well be that your calling, if you haven't found it yet, maybe you found it and you know that, oh, it happened because I saw someone else do it, so I wanted to do it. But if it hasn't happened yet, it could very well be by you witnessing someone else do it. It doesn't mean it's going to be someone close to you. It could be like you watching a YouTube video, seeing someone spin fire, and you're like, wow, I want to do that. You know, like something simple and random like that. But what's important is that you recognize that when you see something that triggers you in this way, that makes you want to go towards it, that you follow your instincts or intuition to do that, and not hold yourself back by listing reasons why you shouldn't. Okay? Don't resist your intuition. Move towards it. So yeah, but keep making cards. Keep making cards. No, keep making connections with this brain, knowledge, learning, mind, strategy card. Okay? Because this would also imply that your mind, depending on what you choose to do in your life, will work very fluidly in order to get you ahead in that business or industry or even a relationship. Like, it'll be right because your mind will work in tandem with the mind of the right person. You know what I mean? Like, you'll both speak the same language. You'll both maneuver around each other the same way. Like, that kind of thing. So this will happen in whatever area of your life that you're looking in. You want it to feel fluid. That means it's right when things are fluid. All right. So, yes. All right. The timeline. Let me figure out the time for a second. Okay, so what we're looking for is you want to go ahead and Google the birth of, like, the very first start of the first chapter of what is today a National African Preservation for Wildlife that has very ethical foundings, but also look for one that was founded by, like, I want to say founded perhaps even by a family, or it's a family foundation or something like that, because I feel like what you're a part of here is still in play today. You would be able to trace this back. You might even be able to find a picture of yourself, quite frankly. This feels like this is 20th century, feels like early 20th century, and you know, I don't know how far back these preservations go, but it could even be at the cusp of the century. But look at the early 20th century and see what has begun. Here's the thing too, I feel like there might be many that you might find, particularly in Africa. But this is not about leisure. So this is not about, like, tourists coming over and this thing caters to them and is a luxury getaway safari kind of, it's not that. This is like just a hardcore preservation where they would even have laboratories or like places where the animals can be taken care of, like, you know, surgeries, things that would help them. Like, it's more, this is not so much luxury, this is about really like getting the job done kind of thing. So that might help. But anyway, there is your past life reading. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you're able to make like some connections here, and thanks for letting me read you.